Welcome back at the video tutorial series for developing with Piral. In this tutorial we'll have a look at actions and state. Piral comes already with some batteries included. One of these batteries is responsible for managing the state. In Piral we already have a state container. A really lightweight one, but you can already extend it and it can be very useful for you. Not only in your application shell, the state container can be used, but also via some plugins, or if you want to expose this functionality in your pilots. But let's start with the application shell. The first thing you need to know is that Piral already comes with some methods to use the global state. Now, this hook does exactly what it tells you to do. For showcasing it, let's just look at our layout and let's look at our dashboard container here. Let's just introduce the hook. Let's return this. Let's format it nicely and let's see what it offers to us. So just by using it, we would get the whole global state. There may be situations where this is useful, but in most cases you don't want this. Any kind of state change will propagate to this component and will cause a re-render. Instead, just select what you want from the state. You see here code completion on all the items in the state. As an example, we could say, okay, give me the current language. Good. Save it. And the current language is EN. Great. Now, that may not be so useful. You may have your own things that you need to have in the container. So the question is, how can you change this? Well, first of all, changing is done via actions, and we have use action as a hook for this. So when you call use action, you will immediately get a selection of all the available actions. There are some pretty generic ones, some pretty weird ones, and a couple of, well, let's say quite useful ones. So for instance, for our language, we have a select language hook. So we can introduce a new button, change to DE, and if the button is clicked, we just would select the language to DE. Maybe we introduce also a second button that allows us to go back to EN. Now maybe let's place it a little bit better, or let's place it below these items. Okay, let's click. So changing to DE. Oh, it's DE now, and now it's EN. Great. So apparently something changes. If we want to have something like a custom action, which is then reusable. So for instance, let's introduce a new action called toggle language. Right now it's not supported, as we see. Let's just create a new module, call it actions. Let's export a function called toggle language. Now, the signature of this function is quite crucial. It needs to have first argument called global state context. But then we are quite free to do. So we can, for instance, call dispatch. And now this is an update. So in here we say, yeah, let's dispatch the state, which again is our state, but has a changed language. And actually we want to take the original language settings, and all we want to do is change the selected thing. And maybe let's switch it to DE. Of course, we could read out the original selected one and then change accordingly. So we could say, yeah, if the selected one is EN, then it's DE, otherwise it's EN again. Great. So let's save this, but nothing's happening here. So we need two things. First of all, we need to include it. So let's just import it. And let's place the actions here. Now, this doesn't work because, yeah, there is just no overload of taking that. And what we actually need to add is the signature of this thing here. So what we would do is we would just add this and say, well, that's it. So now this is accepted. Even better, we now see that this is accepted and it is our signature without any arguments. So the first argument is implied. Let's see if that works. And it toggles nicely. So very simple to add these actions. Now going back, this is of course only half of the story. We may want to introduce something like a toggle counter that we also want to change if we toggle. So let's just introduce this. And for this we have the Piral custom state. And let's say we have a Piral toggle counter. That's pretty much all we need to do here. What we should also do is, of course, just define an initial value. Let's say it's 0, and then it's all well defined. Now, what we then do in here, in this special case, we say, yeah, we have the toggle counter, and this is, by the way, state.toggleCounter +1. And that's pretty much all. So now we have the toggle language. We can use the use global state again on the toggle counter, and we just call this count. And the current language is selected language and was toggled count times. Great. So now we see that this is working nicely. And the nice thing is we can introduce actions and custom state fully in our application shell, and we can actually use this to set up something that we provide via API to our pilots.